Hello, everyone. Today we're taking a look at the RadioMaster GX15. I'm a little late to this, and I will link down below Joshua Bardwell's video as well as Mad's Tech's video. They always do a great job. I haven't seen their content, but if you want a full detailed view of this, I would highly recommend their two videos. But one of the things that has kind of stuck out in my delay in getting this video was the messages I've received and the thumbnails I've seen refer to this as a line of sight radio, and I don't necessarily agree with that. Specifically, from an interface standpoint, it just kind of, to me, makes sense that the screen be above our control mechanisms. Of course, this is a touch screen, but if I think about our computers, the monitor is always up here, and our how we drive is always down here. Laptops the same way. Think about our cell phones. The screen that we're typing in is always above where our hands go. So I don't necessarily think of this as line of sight. Maybe it's because I haven't flown line of sight in, I don't know, a long time, over a decade. It just seems logical to me. But that was the one thing that right off when I started recording this video, I kind of thought about was, why are people thinking this is line of sight only? Maybe it's not an only issue, but let's go through it. So this is the max version that we're looking at here. The max version has all these blue highlights that you see on there, blue because it's better. But you have the all CNC or all metal CNC gimbals that are super smooth, and I've loosened them up, and they have tensioning adjustments all from the front as well as travel adjustments. It also has the LEDs, and you can control those LEDs for different colors or different sorts of stylistic LED sorts of motions on it. Of course, the button in the center and all the little blue highlights and all of our little switches, as well as the handle on the back is metal, and we have these low leather or faux leather grips. Those are all part of the max version. The one thing that I think is probably going to catch a lot of people out, and it's a little bit surprising to me with recent trends, is if we go into the interface and we look at the radio settings, we go into Express LRS, it only goes up to 250 milliwatts. If we go down here, I can't hardly see what I'm doing. We go into the TX power here, and we go into the max power, only goes up to 250 milliwatts. Now, on some radios, depending upon if it's properly flashed or not, you can spin this dial all up to a milliwatt, or not a milliwatt, a full watt, but it doesn't necessarily output a full watt. This spec on this radio is 250 milliwatt, and that could be one feature that you definitely need to know about. That doesn't matter whether it's the max version that we're looking at or the standard version, which does come in a little bit cheaper. So that is probably the first thing you need to know about. If you go into the global functions, you can add one, as I have here for GF, the first global function, and we can go in and we can edit that, and we could set those to the RGB LEDs, and I've got at mine on the BFWRD. So we can go in and we can change that, and we get standard blue. Let's go flow. Let's see what flow looks like. Oh, that's pretty busy. GREE1. That's fine. Full green. So obviously this is what I have set this to. It doesn't come like that. You just tap the plus and then you set your first global function to the RGB LEDs, and that's how you can control the LEDs on your particular radio. Of course, if you go into the colorization, you have full customization. This is kind of Edge TX. It's not specific to this radio. I'm sure there's many tutorials out there on Edge TX and everything else it has, but let's go through a few of the other unique functions. Obviously, we have our trims around here, and then we have these additional functions where we can activate those with different button presses, and you can see we get different light colors on those. I believe you can change those as well to a different light color. You can drive the menu down here using the turn dial as well as the button dial. These are easily readable on this particular version, but one of the things that I would specifically want you to check out was if on this you're going with the standard version, is it as easily readable? Hopefully they have real images on the website that allow you to kind of discern that. These turn dials down here, I can see this being quite handy. Specifically, UAV Tech, he has a lot of tutorials about beta flight testing, and he'll tie the PID changes to these turn dials. And on this particular radio, it's a fair distance from the turn dial from your sticks. So if you're flying you need to turn the dial a little bit to change those things, as he does in his videos. That may be something that you need to consider as well. As far as switches go, we've got momentary switch, 2-position switch, 3-position switch, 3-position switch, 3-position, 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 3-position. Hopefully you could see that all in view there. So lots of switches. Typically on these bigger radios, we do see a lot of switches, and I'm a fan of the longer sticks, but the downside of the longer sticks or switches is that you do have a greater potential of potentially damaging them if you don't put that back in your case, or maybe you have it sitting somewhere and someone drops something on it or whatnot. I think the longer ones tend to break off a little bit easier than the shorter ones, but still yet buttons are, generally speaking, from my understanding, more durable than these metal switches at any rate. We've got a giant battery bay here in the back. Currently, you can see I'm operating it on 2-cell batteries. They do not come with these batteries. RadioMaster sends them with batteries with the review samples. So if you do buy a radio, really any radio from RadioMaster, you need to plan on supplying your own battery, whether it's 18650 cells like these, or you can get, I think there's a 5000 and a 6200 milliamp hour battery that fits this slot as well. And while we're at the back, you can see we have a junior bay. I don't know why the full-size bay is called junior, and then we have the nano bay on the smaller radios, where you could add a RadioMaster module to maybe get that 1 watt of power that you're looking for out of Express LRS. There could be other project purposes down there. We also have venting holes here on the back, as well as on the back of the screen up here. While we're up top, we've got our various ports. I believe, I can't quite see it, that's our audio port. We have our USB-C for charging, as well as simulator connecting to your computer, flashing, and your trainer port. We also have these 2 little areas right here that I believe you would attach accessories to. Maybe that's a tray mount sort of thing. And then at the bottom, you have these 2 screw holes that have brass fittings for threads down here. I believe that is something specific to trays for people who fly line of sight airplanes or helicopters, whatnot. I've seen pictures of that. I don't know that it mounts down here, but they are available if that is necessary. And I think many of us, when we saw the teaser that RadioMaster launched here on Facebook a while back, saw the teaser that included this and thought it was a RadioMaster Zorro 2. Unfortunately, it's not. It's the GX15, which is another good offering, solid offering. RadioMaster has got a radio for, I think, just about everybody under the sun. But one of the things I wanted to touch on was the potential for a Zorro 2. Not that I know anything, but what I would like to see in a Zorro 2. So this is my daily driver. This is the one I have been using. This is the Pyro Drone Edition. It comes with the CNC gimbals, whatnot. So the things that I think that are important to me is the Zorro 2 needs to maintain the same sort of footprint as far as its width, its depth, and the angle that the joystick, supposedly, if you want to call it that, is at. Now, one thing I think they can do is they can, the trend is for a color touchscreen. I wouldn't be surprised if we see that. That's fine as long as it's power efficient. A smaller screen that's color, that's not touchscreen, I would be fine with. A smaller screen that's not touchscreen or color, I would be fine with. I just think the screen is overkill, specifically for FPV. And what they could do is, instead of having this look really like a joystick, I know it would break the aesthetic, is to bring this all the way down to the bottom here. And this would allow for a traditional bigger battery to be housed in the backside like we would typically have. That's something I'm hopeful that we will see, is just, and it doesn't have to be filled in all the way. Maybe they just come down to, a ½ inch from the bottom, and it comes across kind of where this battery tray is, or this battery is that I've got strapped to the bottom, because that really wouldn't break the aesthetic too much. You still get this rounded notch down here, but it would really open up our battery capabilities, which is its biggest drawback in my opinion. I sure hope that they maintain the switches. I'm a big fan of switches. In micros, you disarm very, very quickly when you wreck, to spare yourself an ESC or burn motor. And little switches are great. And I have just gotten really used to flying and being able to arm and disarm really quickly when I have crashes and whatnot. That's going to be important to me. The buttons, I don't really use the buttons or the dials or the sliders in my view. But for me, the angle on the sides, as well as having a bigger battery capability are really two things I've got to see in a Zorro 2. But let me know if you have other things you'd like to see in a Zorro 2 if you're a Zorro user. But those are kind of the two things that I think must have. I could live with a smaller screen. I could live with a non-color screen. Although it seems like with a max version, which is kind of again their trend, they're going to have a color screen in this new version. The aesthetic, as far as the rigidity, the sharp angles, I'm indifferent on that. But I can definitely see with their current design trends that it would be much more of a smooth, rounded edge that they would probably go to. I am a little bit surprised at the GX15 and the amount of bezel around the screen. If you look back at the Oxbox radio, the R1, it had a circular screen and it had very little bezel. So this has got a lot of bezel in comparison, and I was a little surprised that there was so much bezel around this. So that's certainly kind of just a quick look at the radio. The biggest thing I think we need to be aware of is the limitation in the power output. You do have the capabilities of putting a module in the back, but who wants to do that when you buy a brand new radio? If you need more than 250 milliwatts, which maybe you do for just peace of mind, whatever the reason, I'm not going to judge. That's not for me. This just does not have that power, and I'm a little bit surprised by it. It's got some cool features in the max version with the different LED lights, and we've got a touch screen up here, which may be useful, but I really would like to know what your thoughts are as far as the logic of having the screen above. Should we always have the screen above, or like on our TX16Ss and stuff like that, where it's a much longer radio, that we have the big screen down at the bottom between our driver interface? It's not a huge drawback, but it just seems the logic to me of having this up. And even if you're looking at it, you could just glance down and see this screen up higher versus bending your neck. Even if you're not flying something, you're just doing some tinkering with your settings in your radio. It just seems logical to me. Let me know what you think down in the video, or down in the comment section down below. Also, those of you that use the Zorro, what other things are you looking for in the Zorro 2? Because I keep holding out hope. I don't know anything, but I keep holding out hope that the Zorro 2 is got to be coming along with the number of radios that RadioMaster makes. The Zorro 2 is one of the few that hasn't had a second iteration just yet. The other one would be possibly the Pocket 2. Maybe they do a Pocket Primo. I don't know, but let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. I'm very curious about that. I'm very curious about the screen logic as well, as I said. If you do have any comments, questions, suggestions, or otherwise about anything that we talked about in this video, please let me know in the comment section below. I appreciate your time, and thanks for watching. The screen is above the control interface. Oh, that was funny. Got a frog in my throat.